Welcome to the Deep Dive. Okay, so today, forget the really flashy headlines. We're actually plunging into a subject that, well, it often gets pushed to the back pages in Washington news, but it genuinely impacts national security. And, the effective spending of every single dollar you send to the IRS.
Yeah, it's about how the federal government actually shops for things.
Exactly. Our focus today is H.R. 856. The official title is the Safe and Smart Federal Purchasing Act. We've pulled the core details from Congress.gov about this bill. It's from the 119th Congress. And we want to understand this legislative mission reforming federal procurement rules.
It's a really interesting look at that tension, isn't it, between, the public pressure to save money
Right.
and the absolute necessity of securing national interests.
So we really need to unpack what this bill is trying to fix. And right at the start, there's a massive clue about just how serious people think the problem is.
Okay.
This bill, sponsored by Representative Donalds, it's already passed the House of Representatives. And the vote, it was 417-0.
Wow. Okay. That kind of near unanimous agreement, I mean, in today's Washington, that's incredibly rare.
It really is.
It tells you immediately, this isn't the usual political fight, right?
Right.
This isn't just partisan spending debates. It feels like it's about a serious systemic flaw
Yeah.
that, well, both sides of the aisle agree needs to be looked at urgently.
417
Yeah.
to 0. It's just stunning. So what is this specific purchasing flaw that got everyone on the same page?
Okay, so the core target of H.R. 856 is a specific method the government uses a lot. It's called the lowest price technically acceptable source selection process. Known, of course, in bureaucratic circles everywhere by its lovely acronym.
LPTA.
LPTA, okay. It definitely sounds like something buried deep in the Federal Acquisition Regulation Manual.
It is.
But the concept itself, it's actually pretty universal, isn't it? You probably practice it yourself sometime.
Like when you're making a big purchase for your family or maybe for your business, say a critical piece of office equipment or maybe a reliable furnace for your home, you need it to meet basic safety and performance requirements, right?
Yeah.
That's the technically acceptable part.
Exactly, the bare minimum it needs to do the job.
But if you're under, intense budget pressure, you might naturally lean towards choosing the cheapest option that just barely clears that technical bar. That decision prioritizing lowest cost over maybe better quality, that's LPTA in practice.
Right. And the government does this, the thinking goes, to save taxpayer money. The assumption is, as long as the minimum requirements are met, the taxpayer gets the best deal.
Which does raise a question, though. If LPTA is about cost control, why did it become so widespread?
Well, it wasn't born out of, bad intentions. It really came from a desire for fiscal responsibility and transparency, too.
Ah, okay.
Before LPTA got so dominant, procurement decisions could often feel, well, pretty subjective. Agencies might pick vendors based on best value, which could be interpreted in different ways. And that sometimes led to accusations, fair or not, of favoritism or maybe inflated costs.
I see. So LPTA was meant to standardize things.
Exactly. Set clear, measurable minimum requirements. And then the rule is the agency must take the cheapest bid that meets them. It sort of removes the wiggle room for an agency to pick a pricier option without clear justification.
So it was designed to fight potential corruption and wasteful spending. Clear rules, lowest bidder wins, makes the process seem objective. But if that's the case, why do we now need a bill called the Safe and Smart Federal Purchasing Act? Where does that logic start to break down?
It breaks down primarily when you shift from buying standard stuff, paper clips, basic software,
commodity items.
right, to purchasing mission-critical services or, say, advanced defense technology. When the product is national security itself, choosing the absolute cheapest option that just meets the minimum specs, well, that introduces some dangerous blind spots.
Okay, here's where it gets really concerning. Based on the CRS summary we looked at, the main purpose of H.R. 856 isn't to get rid of LPTA entirely, is it? It's to address this specific risk.
Precisely. The bill mandates that the government conduct a formal critical review. They need to determine if the current use of the LPTA process, especially in sensitive areas, has specifically created any national security risk.
So it's acknowledging that a system maybe designed for buying pencils is being used for, fighter jet parts.
Or complex IT systems, yeah. It recognizes that a tool designed for commodity purchasing might be misapplied in high-stakes situations.
Okay, let's make this risk more tangible for you listening. What kind of vulnerability are we actually talking about if a low-bid contractor wins a really sensitive government job?
Well, think about the supply chain, for instance.
Okay.
If the government is buying complex IT infrastructure or maybe sensitive communications gear purely based on the lowest price, that low bidder might be cutting cost by using components sourced from, say, foreign adversaries. Or maybe they outsource core development and maintenance to places that aren't secure. The cheapest acceptable bid might not factor in robust cybersecurity measures or redundant systems or maybe high-quality traceable components.
So you're talking about two big potential failure points here. Either the thing itself, the hardware, the software fails because it's just, well, inferior quality, like a system crash takes out a critical function.
Right, that's one risk.
Or, potentially worse, the system contains hidden vulnerabilities like compromised backdoors that maybe foreign entities could exploit to steal data or even shut things down.
That's exactly the so what. If a financial system or an intelligence database or even a piece of military logistics software was chosen mainly because it offered the lowest price while meeting just the minimum technical standard, you're essentially trading a short-term saving on that contract for a potentially massive long-term vulnerability.
That cheapest price often means corners were cut somewhere.
And in national security, those cut corners can be, well, catastrophic.
This sounds like a problem that's probably been building for a while. How does this bill actually ensure the bureaucracy changes its behavior? Rather than just doing a quick audit, filing a report, and carrying on.
That's where the formal mandate really kicks in. HR 856 requires the Office of Management and Budget, OMB.
Okay, the OMB, that's like the President's Central Administrative and Accounting Agency, right?
That's right. It requires OMB to conduct a full evaluation of how LPTA is currently being used across all the different agencies. This isn't optional. It's a formal demand from Congress for accountability.
But OMB is huge. How do we make sure they don't just produce some vague report saying, yeah, we looked, seems mostly okay?
Well, the legislative structure tries to address that by forcing a transparent loop.
A loop.
Yeah. OMB must complete this detailed evaluation. Yeah. And then this is key. It is required to report its specific findings directly to Congress.
Okay. Public reporting.
Yes, exactly. To the body that controls the money and writes the laws. That ensures accountability. Congress can then take those findings and decide what to do, maybe restrict LPTA use in certain critical sectors or mandate higher quality standards across the board. The goal is to force a documented public policy change based on the evidence.
And we can see exactly where Congress intends for this review to land based on where the bill went next. After passing the House, it wasn't sent to the Appropriations Committee, which handles money, or even just the General Oversight Committee. It went straight to the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs.
And that committee assignment is the final, really definitive signal, isn't it?
Seems like it.
They're clearly viewing poor purchasing decisions as a potential threat vector, just like a physical threat or a cyber attack.
So procurement isn't just shuffling papers anymore.
No, it's being recognized as a critical component of national defense and protecting our infrastructure.
Which, brings us back to what this means for you listening at home or at work, even though you're probably not bidding on government contracts.
Oh, why not?
This bill really illustrates a fundamental challenge that exists in every high-stakes environment, finding that right balance between cost and quality.
Yeah.
This legislation is essentially telling federal agencies, look, stop being merely cheap and start being smart.
So just to kind of synthesize what we've unpacked here, the Safe and Smart Federal Purchasing Act represents a pretty rare moment of bipartisan agreement to stop prioritizing that lowest price, technically acceptable philosophy when, national security could be compromised.
Right.
It's really an essential legislative check. It's designed to force the government to use quality and security as primary deciding factors, not just as secondary qualifications that come after the price tag.
So what does this all really boil down to? It's a powerful illustration of that inherent difficulty in public life, isn't it?
How so?
Well, everyone demands fiscal responsibility, which is understandable. But when you trade quality for savings, especially in critical areas, the true cost could be massive failure or, worse, compromise. This law is really trying to nudge the government away from just buying based on the lowest price towards a model of genuine best value. considering everything, not just the initial cost.
That makes sense.
And this leaves us with maybe a provocative thought for your own decision-making. When you're making a truly critical decision for your family, maybe choosing childcare or healthcare or even safety equipment for your business, you probably wouldn't just pick the lowest price, technically acceptable option available, would you?
Likely not, no.
You intuitively understand that sometimes spending a bit more is actually an investment in security, in reliability, in peace of mind.
Yeah.
So, if the government is now being formally told to stop treating national security like a low-bid commodity, how should you maybe reevaluate where that line is? Where does cost control end, and where does necessary quality investment begin in your own most important purchasing decisions?